So today I have sort of like a silly idea that I'm nonetheless going to do. Basically, I just wanted to pack and talk, and I'm going to pack and talk about writing, which I think is a funny thing to do because like it takes so much energy for me to pack, and I still always forget everything that I need, but I guess we'll just do it anyway. Like, why not? There's like a serious hindrance to my packing happening right now in the form of a cat. You can see this. Okay, hi, it's me. Yesterday I had the completely unhinged idea to pack at the same time. You can see I'm packing. Right now I'm packing a cat who wants to come with me. But I basically had this idea yesterday that like it would be kind of fun to pack and at the same time talk about writing. And the topic that I want to talk about today is first drafts. I would say the most conversations about writing are about that first draft and about revision. I wish you could see, like, I don't know if you can see this, my cat Stevie is looking at me so earnestly as though I'm saying something really important, so I'm feeling really seen right now. Anyway, so I've just been thinking a lot about first drafts lately. First, because I'm in first draft territory. I'm working on the first draft of my technically third book. And it's really interesting because it's like every time I do it, it's like a new process. I feel like I've simultaneously learned stuff and I also haven't. I'm learning everything over and over again with writing, which is okay. But I wanted to today like kind of bring everything together, like all the things that I think of when I think about writing a first draft, everything I've learned from like professors to I listen to a lot of author interviews, I read a lot of craft essays, so I just wanted to sort of bring all those ideas into one place. I'm definitely going to forget some because I'm not like doing formal notes, I'm just talking off the cuff, maybe pulling from a few books if they're handy, but I just want to, let's talk about first drafts because I think that they're, in a way, the most magical part of the writing process. So if you can embrace the uncertainty of them, I think you can end up making it a little bit easier for yourself. The more you struggle against your first draft, the harder it will be, she says to herself just as much as you. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna pack and talk. Are we gonna be able to do that? Am I gonna be able to pack and talk? Maybe not. We'll try anyway. Okay, so I have all my things that I'm gonna pack here. I've already like nicely rolled them, so I'm gonna try not to fuck them up. Oh god, I gotta stop pausing these videos. Okay, whatever. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about was kind of the foundation of what is a first draft. In the simplest terms, a first draft is the first breath of your story. It's the first version of it. It is V1. It is something that a lot of people call a shitty first draft. That is from Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird, which is quite a wonderful writing book if you haven't read it. It's so good, really foundational. It's one of those where like everyone will tell you to read it, so I kind of am like, do I want to tell you to read it? Because everyone else will? Anyway, it's fine, I'm telling you. So basically in Bird by Bird, Anne Lamott has this idea that you should have a shitty first draft. As in, you should have a draft that is like trash. Like, it is just to get your ideas on the page. It is just to basically transport what is in your head to on the paper. Because if you have something in your head, you can't work on it, right? What you can work on is something that's on paper, on your word processor, whatever it is. So when you're writing a shitty first draft, you should think of it as just like, it's like the outline of the book. But it's actually much more subconscious than that. And that's what I want to stress the most today. That's what I want to talk about. Because when people talk about writing ideas, when it comes to short stories or any type of fiction, not just literary fiction, there is quite a magical way that people talk about it. It's a way that's very linked to like occult or like spirituality. If you just listen to pretty much any like podcast from a writer you like, you will notice this. Like, people talk about writing like it's a magic trick, and the first draft especially feels that way because you are tapping into your subconscious. So what I mean by that is, in that first draft, you are like feeling your way into the story. Maybe for you, you start with a sentence, or you start with a basic premise, or you start with a character, or you start with a single like image. I think one of the first encounters I ever had with this was famously Stephenie Meyer dreamed of Edward and Bella in the meadow in Twilight, which when I was in 8th grade and obsessed with Twilight and also wanted to be a writer, that was like a big thing that I thought about all the time. I always kind of thought that sounded so mystical to dream your idea, but this is actually like quite a common idea. I recently learned that through a craft essay, through the Swanee Review, which they have the best craft essays, you guys. They're so good. But basically through the Swanee Review, there was a craft essay, which I can't remember the name of the guy, so I will put it here. But he was saying how that's the same with Jeff Vandermeer, who wrote Annihilation, the trilogy. He basically dreamed that first Annihilation book, and he was able to like wake up and write it. And of course that is a very ideal situation, but I think what that points to is how much of this process happens in a dreamlike trance, a complete subconscious level. Like, it is not something, in my opinion, and there are people, there are exceptions, in my opinion, a first draft is not something you think your way through. It is like you're in a dark hallway and you're stumbling through the dark hallway and you're trying to feel for the walls, and then you open a door. You feel the doorknob, you open the door, you go through to the next room. You feel lost. And if you try to fight the feeling of being lost, you will have a harder time. If you embrace that you're walking through the dark, you will have an easier time. And not only that, like, little miracles will start to happen in the story. You'll start to see like, oh, the character did that? They did that? Wait, they did that? And it becomes this really joyful process where you're almost just watching your story unfold, but you have to get out of your analytical brain to get there. I haven't, in case you're wondering, the packing is not going well. I'm just talking and sitting in front of my suitcase. So I'm gonna pack a little and then I'll move on to the next point. Okay, so I have all my clothes, my normal clothes packed. I hope I'm not packing in an unhinged way, but I think I actually might be. Whatever, it's fine. Okay, so the thing that I wanted to say about that is that while obviously having a dream is ideal, like kind of that's, you know, if all of us could have our great ideas come to us in a dream, that would be great. But that isn't always the case. That doesn't mean that there aren't like really mystical ways of finding your ideas and making them into a first draft. For me, the book that I have written, that I'm currently working with an agent on, it came to me through a writing prompt. I designed this writing prompt, and as soon as I did, I had a character just speak out. Like, she just spoke straight to me, and just the first line of the book, which is different now because that's how books are. But the first line of the book just completely spoke out of me, and I needed that because I needed her voice. Her voice guided the entire book for me. But I had to be open to that, and I'm not always open to that. I'm someone who I am quite distracted. I listen to a lot of podcasts, I listen to a lot of books. To have those moments of creative spark, you have to set yourself up for it. You have to be willing to be quiet with yourself. You have to be willing to do a writing prompt that may lead nowhere. You have to be willing to go on a walk without your phone, or meditate, or swim, or do things that are not capturing your attention so fully. That's when ideas come to you. They can come when you're looking at social media. Like, famously, like, Katie Kitamura got the idea for her most recent book, which is called Audition, very good. She got that from a newspaper article title. Like, it was something like, Mom discovers long lost son who she didn't know exists, and she ended up writing the book based on that. So you can get inspo from anywhere, but I think that for that inspo to translate to a first draft, you have to have a sort of mystical belief and the idea that you're just going to trust the story, you're going to trust where it takes you, and that can be really tough. I'm not going to lie. There's so many times where I'm feeling really in the flow of writing a first draft, and then I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing? I don't even know what this character's doing, blah, 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 blah. Okay, a little bit of packing, and then I'll do what I was going to talk about next. Okay, I won't lie, I'm struggling a bit. I'm going to New Orleans, but it's gonna be raining the whole week, but it's gonna be hot, and I don't know how to pack for that weather, so I'm bringing skirts and stuff, and I'm hoping that that's not a bad decision, but I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna ruin all my skirts in the rain. I want to be a little bit more practical about, like, once you have the idea, how do you write this first draft? There are a lot of ways to do this. For me, I did, for the last book, I did a straight through. I got really lucky. I was sort of on fire with it. I wrote it all. The first draft I wrote in 3 months. I wrote it very fast. And I had this sort of ritual where I was working at WeWork at the time, and I would book this weird meditation room that they had where it was really weird. Like, you had to go and get the person who was working at the front desk to let you into the meditation room, and then they would essentially lock you in there. You could get out. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal, but like you had to like press a button. It was a whole thing. Anyway, for that hour, I would turn off the lights and I would sit in this sort of like room chair that they had, and I would just write for an hour every single day, and I got through a draft in 3 months. There was just a sort of trance that happened when I sat in the dark. And now that I'm saying this out loud, this is part of the reason I want to do this video. I'm having trouble with my first draft now, and I'm like, maybe I should be sitting in the dark. The effect of sitting in the dark was that I could just be with my characters, and it was almost like I was watching a movie, and they were just telling me what they were going to do next. I was just typing, and as I was typing, I knew, like, oh wow, they're doing that, they're doing this, interesting, like, had no idea. And the point of that interaction with your characters is not for that to be set in stone. It's actually for it to be something where you're getting to know them. And even if you end up keeping very little of the first draft, you're getting to know your characters. You're starting to understand the shape of your story. Again, you're like feeling around that hallway, and by the end of your first draft, maybe you've switched on a single light and you're like, oh, I can sort of see the shape of this, I get it. So a lot of people, for me, what I did with that first draft is I just went back in and refined it, and then ended up querying it. But a lot of people will use a method where you write out the full first draft and then you completely scrap it. You write it on, like, you know, a notebook that you don't care about, or a legal pad. You scrap it and then you try to write the whole story again from memory. And the effect of that is that every time you write it, you're getting to a more essential version of the plot itself. It also keeps you from getting attached to your language. Like, if you're someone who really cares about sentences, like I am, there's a tendency to get so attached to sentences that you have trouble letting them go when they're not serving the plot. So by doing those multiple early drafts where you're basically just kind of like cavorting around with your characters, you're getting the shape of the story before you start doing the ornamental stuff. I personally don't have the patience for that approach, but a lot of people use it. Like Lauren Groff does it. She talks about this beautifully, which in a few podcasts, which I'll link below. She's such a great, if you're wondering about drafting or revising, she has such a great handle of all of those things, and I'll attach it below so you can listen. Basically, those are just ways for you to keep your subconscious being the one that informs your story rather than your ego. As soon as your ego enters your story, you're in trouble, because your ego has like so many ideas of the way it wants to be. Your ego is worried about how things will sound. Your ego is worried that you're not as smart as you could be. Oh my god, like, why am I not as smart about this topic as I could be? This is like such a thing. Where you're just, I'm not packing at all. Do you guys see this? I have literally not packed at all. Stevie has just moved into my suitcase because he's like, you're not packing. I know you're not. I would say if I could give like the most simple advice for your first draft, free write. Do not make yourself write linearly. I do, but don't make yourself, like, just keep jumping around if that's how scenes are coming to you. Set a in an ideal situation, you'd set a time period where we're going to finish that first draft, because in a compressed amount of time, I think that compressed amount of time allows you to really get in the voice and not have to keep removing yourself and putting yourself back in. That's a bit of my struggle with my first draft that I'm working on right now. I flew through like 25,000 words, and now I'm just like, I took a few months off to edit my other book, and now I'm just stuck trying to get back in the voice. It's a little bit tough. So if you can, if it's an ideal situation, I would write straight through. Don't work on anything else. Don't revise. Do not, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is a mistake I made so much with the first book that I wrote that I ended up just trashing. You cannot revise as you okay, I'm not saying you cannot, there are writers who do it, but I would strongly suggest not revising as you're writing your first draft. It's such a trap. You get attached to sentences, you get attached to like an arc of each chapter, which you just don't want to do at the beginning. At the beginning, you are getting to know. You're on a first date. That's like if you're on a first date with someone and you started being like, have you thought about like styling your hair like this instead? They'd be like, WTF. There's a fly. Anyway, so basically, like, treat it like a first date. Go in there, be subconscious, be like, I don't know if the first date thing stands for like being subconscious, but you know what I mean. Don't try to put all of your ego onto your draft. That was just such a huge thing for me. This also goes with if you write your first draft is not the time for you to get critique partners. Your first draft is the time for there to be no criticism. You write down everything. Even if it's terrible, if you're like writing, you're like, this is literally terrible, you're doing it right. You need to keep going. You need to get to the end, and then you can do a second draft, a third draft, however you want to do that, whatever strategy you want to use. And then when you feel like you have reached the end of what you can do in this current time period, that is when you get critique partners. You do not get critique partners in that early time. That early time is precious time with you and your book. It is this tender time when you're getting to know each other. And if you let other voices in, you lose the intimacy. I know I'm talking about this in sort of a mystical way, but it's because I think it is mystical. You develop a trust with your book, with your precious idea, and you don't want to break that trust early on in the process. I did this with my first book. It was honestly heartbreaking. I was in an MFA program, and the structure of MFA programs are that you do this. You write a chapter and then you get it workshopped, which I really disagree with, I'm not gonna lie. And it just really, it hurt my work so much to have 20 people give me notes on it each week when it was brand new and it was just getting to know the world and it was just getting to know me. And then I was like, here are 20 people who will judge you now. Like, it is truly not the way, in my opinion. There are people do this really differently, so I just want to keep stressing that these are my opinions and the opinions of people that I trust. You gotta open yourself up. I think if you already like have sort of a spiritual bend, this can be kind of easier. I've always felt like, since I was little, I've kind of had my own, I don't know how to call it. I don't know if I would necessarily call it spirituality, but I've had a mysticism. I've been a little bit obsessed with like signs and coincidences and like interpretations and, you know, inspirational quotes. I've always had this sort of desire to find meaning in the world and find meaning in my life through sort of mystical means. And I think when you're writing, it can be useful to have your own version of that. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be like I'm recently really into tarot, but you don't have to have something like that. It could just be that you sit in a dark room so that your ideas come into you. It could be that you go on a walk every day for 20 minutes without your headphones and you let the ideas come in and you don't expect too much, but you like hope. It could be that you do a writing prompt. It's basically just letting those ideas in, and then once the idea is there, then you can pack your bag. Just kidding. Okay, I really feel like this video has been a little bit insane, but I hope that I might just like I'm gonna post this because I want to get better, just like posting things even when they're not perfect. But I'm also gonna post, like, I think now that I've gotten to talk through this, I really want to do a separate two different videos, one on ideas, because I feel like this is the tension of this video, is that ideas and first drafts are really interlinked, so it's really hard to not talk about them together, but they're distinct. So I'd love to do a video on ideas and a video on first draft. But final advice, TLDR, is respect the sanctity of your idea by writing your first draft very quickly without judgment. Let your characters show you through the dark hall. Do not try to put doors where there are no doors. Let them show you where the doors are. You write and you write and you write, and when you don't know what's going to be the next sentence, that's fine. They're going to tell you if you just wait and you're patient and you keep writing. And even if you write 3 paragraphs where you're like, I don't even know, like the next day or whatever, you're like, I don't know, leave them. You don't know how it might end up in the story later. Finish your first draft, let it sit. Just have a sense of mysticism around this process, a sense of play. It should be like you're like a little fairy or like a little sprite, just having fun, kind of cavorting through your, I use the word cavorting twice today, which is a word I literally never use. You're just kind of frolicking. You're frolicking through your draft, and you're trusting the magic of that blank page. There's something else there with you, and you can believe it is whatever you think it is. If you think it's someone speaking to you from the other side, if you think it's, a like character who's just appeared in your brain, if you think it's like a collection of synapses, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Have your own little mysticism about your writing process, and have your own little ritual around that first draft. Sit in the dark room. Only write underneath your desk. Pull a tarot card before you write. Light a candle. Make it a spiritual practice, especially that first draft, because you are really, that is the most magical part. Can we just recap? You are bringing nothing into something. You are literally creating something from a blank page. It's complete magic. It is complete magic, and I think we tend to talk about it in this like really serious way, and it is serious and it should be treated seriously, but also like this is we're talking about everyday magic here. That's what we're talking about. So, all right, I'm gonna actually pack now, because if you're wondering, I like literally haven't packed at all. I put my some clothes in here, but like I haven't really done anything. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see if you like this rambly type of video. But thank you for listening, and let me know. Yeah, let me know as usual. Like, let me know if you have specific things you want me to cover. No one really comments on these videos yet, which is totally fine. Look, I have never commented on a YouTube video in my whole life. Maybe I shouldn't have admitted that, but whatever. Okay, yeah. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next video. And in the meantime, protect your first draft. Don't let anyone else see it but you and maybe your kitty cat.